Pressure versus pressure fight coming up this weekend. We have Gillian Robertson coming in on short notice at flyweight, replacing the Queen of Violence, Ariane Lipski, taking on the boxer, JJ Aldrich. And if there's anything I know about JJ Aldrich, it's that she does not like to throw kicks. She likes to throw hands. She likes to grapple every now and again, but it's mostly on the defensive end of things. Coming out of Elevation Fight Team in Colorado, and we could say oil and water in this fight. But it really is oil and water in this fight. For Gillian Robertson, she knows where her bread gets buttered. It is with her grappling. And she is very powerful when she can implement that game plan. We saw it against Sarah Frota, where she was able to get the TKO win. We saw it in her fight against Molly McCann. She's been able to do that in some of these big-time marquee matchups where she's able to get wins. And for both of these women, coming off The Ultimate Fighter, for Robertson off of Season 26, that was Nico Montano versus Roxanne Modafferi in the final. For JJ Aldrich coming off of Season 23. But a lot of experience out of these two in the UFC. I mean, we see it for Robertson, 7-4 the UFC record. JJ Aldrich not out there as often, and she's been in the UFC for longer at 6-3. But Matt, again, it really is a tale of striker versus grappler in this one. And on short notice, it's interesting for Robertson because she was originally in Vegas to corner a former foe, now friend, in Hannah Goldie a few weeks ago. Goldie unable to make the walk. Dean Thomas is already there doing a little bit of that commentary work for the UFC. So an interesting one for Robertson to just get a fight in and take on JJ Aldrich.
If you put Clay Guida into a machine and you cut his fighting style in half, like directly down the middle, it would create Gillian Robertson and JJ Aldrich. Because like you set this video up with, both these fighters do like to pressure, something Clay Guida is known for. But they pressure in very different ways. Robertson's someone who really uses the threat of the takedown and her takedowns, of course, to pressure opponent up against the cage, use some, let's just call it what it is, basic boxing combinations, and then get the fight down to the mat, where she does have very nice jiu-jitsu, especially offensively. Whereas with Aldrich, always moving forward, really likes to put the jab out there. Really good boxer, but she does fight kind of like an ally Quinta, to where we know she has wrestling, but she primarily uses it defensively in most of her matchups. And this is an interesting fight because with Robertson, she was a very hyped up prospect at one point. People put her in the same category of like a Macy Barber. And then we had one of those great prospect versus prospect fights. And what happened in that fight, Craig?
She got knocked out.
Very, very fast, too. And when I try to see, okay, what's Gillian Robertson going to do and how she fights JJ Aldrich, Aldrich fights a lot like Macy Barber. Yes, she might not go for as many offensive takedowns of her own, but she has good boxing for this division. I would say she has underrated power in this division too, and her takedown defense is good enough against most people who don't have a very high-level wrestling background to at least keep the fight on the feet. And is Aldrich going to go out there and outstrike everyone in the division? No, of course not. Like, let's say Marina Rodriguez, had another one-off at flyweight. I don't know why she came to mind, but you get the idea. Technically, someone like Rodriguez is much more high level than Aldrich, but Aldrich is almost built to beat fighters like Gillian Robertson. Fighters who rely on their takedowns, although they aren't the best wrestlers in the world, have really good jiu-jitsu, but it's not often we can see it just because the wrestling isn't a strength. And then on the feet, I don't think Robertson can throw combos or really much with JJ Aldrich in this matchup. So for me, I think it'll be interesting to see how does Robertson win moments and win minutes in this fight.
I mean, for Robertson, 11 fights in the UFC. She's only had 2 of those 11 where she wasn't able to gain a takedown. The one against Macy Barber where she gets finished on the feet. The other one against future title challenger, your next title challenger, Taila Santos. And if you look at it for Aldrich, in her losses, she does get out-grappled in her UFC debut, and I think that's a big one to really point to. Now, that was years ago when she had that fight coming off of The Ultimate Fighter, taking on Juliana Lima, who was able to implement her grappling, wins over Chan Mi Jun, Danielle Taylor, Polyana Viana. She gets finished by Macy Barber. A win over Lauren Mueller. The loss to Sabina Mazo by split. A win over Courtney Casey by split. You can make a decision either way for sure in that one. And then the win over Vanessa Demopoulos, where Vanessa had some good moments in the first round.
Vanessa's not a UFC caliber fighter.
But that's it. I think she is at strawweight, but we can differ on that one. But here and now, up at 125 pounds, I'm going to read you the odds. We accidentally brought the Tapology votes up. But the odds for this one, Robertson on short notice, minus 160 at open, minus 155 right now. Aldrich at open, plus 140, plus 128 right now. Tapology votes, 429 of them. 74% going with Robertson, 63% by submission for the 26% that have Aldrich, 87% by decision. For Gillian Robertson, this one's on short notice, but she's fresh. She doesn't have to cut a lot of weight from what I heard in an interview with friend of the show, Lucas Grandsire, that I just listened to. She talks about, the fact that she knows a striker versus grappler. But when I looked at the gyms, she used to be at ATT, right? And then from Instagram, from her last fight where she was able to get the win, she is trained at Indoor Martial Arts, Fusion XL, Extreme Couture, the Goat Shed Academy, Glory MMA and Fitness, and 10th Planet Vegas while she's been in Vegas right now for the last few weeks. Obviously getting ready for Goldie and her fight, and then, now this fight. It seems like the Goat Shed Academy has kind of been, the mainstay at least.
They don't have an Instagram page, though, and that's weird.
They do. It's just like, it seems like it's a broken link. But yeah, it is kind of weird that way. But they do have a website if you're looking for it, and they're on Facebook. But when it comes to this matchup, yeah, Robertson's kind of bounced around. Dean Thomas is there as corner for the advice. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of the fight, Robertson needs to take down. Aldrich has to defend it. And Aldrich, you're right. She has decent takedown defense in the UFC. It's not like the best we've ever seen. It's not the worst.
It's intelligent takedown defense, though. She knows what the basics are. Dig underhooks, get my back off the cage. And as long as you know the basics, I do think that's good enough to beat someone like Robertson, who, again, her jiu-jitsu is very good, but her wrestling kind of lacks the transition between her striking and her jiu-jitsu. And unless you have the striking of someone like Brian Ortega, it's really hard to go into a cage relying on your world-class jiu-jitsu and just average wrestling, if you will. So I do think if Robertson does get this fight to the mat, especially early, she can have a lot of success. I just worry about, other than a submission finish, how is she going to be able to win rounds consistently? Because Aldrich has a decent work rate, does work behind the jab, and it's just kind of frustrating on the feet. And I do think Robertson, if she does shoot for a lot of takedowns, is going to be forced to shoot from a very long distance in this fight, which is just going to hurt her percentages a little bit worse on those takedown attempts. So I do like Aldrich in this matchup.
Craziest part about it for Aldrich, I opened it up saying this, she does not throw leg kicks. The only fight she threw leg kicks in was the Chan Mi-jun fight, but these are the averages. 0%, 20%, 3%, 2%, 4%, 6%, 0%, 1% of total strikes to the legs. Like, she does not throw kicks, but she throws a nice jab and can follow it up with a nice one too.
And I know I've been gassing up JJ Aldrich, but this does have to be said. She's only really fought UFC entry-level talent in her whole entire UFC career. That's not a great sign. Like, by this point, you would like to see her start fighting people up the rankings a little bit, and not even ranked fighters when I say that, just people with a little bit more respect tied to their name, because when you're 9 fights deep in the UFC and you're still fighting the likes of Vanessa Demopoulos, we expect a little bit more out of you, and I do think this fight is that opportunity for her.
Big opportunity for both of those women. I'm sure we'll hear it in the comments section for not siding with the Canadian in this one, but both of us going with the boxing of JJ Aldrich to get it done. You let us know if we're wrong down there. You let us know if we're right. That one doesn't happen very often, but it should be a big-time fight, and we got a big-time card coming up. Alex Pereira's taking on Bruno Silva, and you know I'm excited about it. Let's keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.